Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all the social media. Please give us a follow, and welcome to the program. It's Friday night. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour. I want to give you the phone number if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation. I welcome you to do that. The phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And a bunch of things are going on, right? There was an explosion in California, LA County Sheriff's Department training facility. 3 are dead. We got a report on that. Go right ahead.
Good Friday morning to you. I'm Rachel Brown. We begin with breaking news in Monterey Park, where there's been a deadly explosion. Scott Reif.
Yeah, Rachel, tragic incident here at the SEB compound of the LA County Sheriff's Department. It looks like this explosion occurred in the lot where they housed the bomb squad. It happened around 7:20 this morning. We were overhead around 7:30, and it appeared we could see at least 3 people had been killed. We don't have confirmation, but it did look like all 3 were more than likely LA County Sheriff's deputies. Exactly what went wrong, we have no idea at this point in time. We're not getting any information from the Sheriff's Department or from the Fire Department. LAPD has actually sent their bomb squad to the scene. We saw a pretty good-sized explosion blow out all the windows of the patrol cars you see in the front of your screen there, but it looks like the explosion occurred off of a ramp from one of the bomb squad vehicles and sadly killed those 3 individuals. Right now we're trying to get more information as to what may have happened, but certainly it's unprecedented. We haven't seen something like this at the Sheriff's Department bomb squad ever in my experience, and certainly there'll be a long-playing investigation. Rachel?
So that's part of what's going on there. And again, I wanted to give you that because that was a breaking story earlier today. We're going to keep monitoring that so that you know what's going on. But again, 3 LA sheriff deputies were killed in that explosion at the training facility. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with them. That's always a terrible thing. And, you know, not the way you want to kick off a weekend, but it is what it is. And there's more. Speaking of law enforcement, D.C. police commissioner is now under investigation for, guess what? Allegedly faking crime data. Now, the other day, I was doing a TV hit, some commentary on, you know, some of the news of the day a week ago. And one of my colleagues, a very nice guy, was saying, well, the statistics are the statistics. And this was off the air. But that the statistics were the statistics, and that crime is down, and that somehow Adams is a better option than Sliwa. And I really just couldn't stomach this debate because there's so many people out there that have made this foregone conclusion that Curtis Sliwa needs to be the one to drop out when he's polling better than Adams, and he's challenging Adams. Adams is the sitting mayor that sucks so bad that his own people went ahead and elected Mandani, who I like to call Mad Manny. But anyway. The point here was he was citing crime data as if police chiefs don't do this. Now, look, I love cops, right? You guys know my 2 of my brothers were NYPD. One of them went on to serve in the feds for a second 20-year career after his NYPD career. I got a lot of respect for law enforcement. I went to help my town with the police reserve. A lot of respect for the cops. This is not about that. This is about when Democrats are in charge, this is their typical MO. They say, oh, look at the drastic reduction in crime. And they do this by way of not arresting people. If you don't report the crimes, they never happened. This is a trick as old as the day is long. They do it all the time. Yet somehow people keep falling for it, and I guess that's why they do it as much as they do. Anyway, this D.C. police commander, he's being investigated for allegedly faking the crime data. Michael Pulliman, the Metropolitan Police Department, and the Fraternal Order of Police are involved in one way or another. This investigation took place between mid-May and now in Washington, D.C., and it's a big deal, right? The Metropolitan Police Department confirming that Michael Pullman, a commander in the D.C. Metro Police, is under investigation for doctoring crime stats. It's a big deal. Now, Craig Pemberton, he's the chairman of the Fraternal Order of Police. He stated that there's a trend of altering crime classifications to lower the apparent crime rates. Hey, I just said that. So Greg with two G's, Pemberton, knows exactly what's going on. He says, when our members respond to the scene of a felony offense, there will be a lieutenant or captain that will show up on that scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. Explaining, so instead of taking the report for a shooting or a stabbing or a carjacking, they will order that the officer take a report for theft or an injured person or some sort of assault, which is not the same type of classification. And they do this, again, at the behest of the politicians, right? Because cops aren't inherently looking to do that unless they're at the highest level where they're saying, oh, I want to be able to say, look, we haven't had, rapes. We haven't had many rapes in forever long. You can say that if every last sexual assault that comes your way, you list as something else. Now, I'm not saying every cop is doing this, but I am saying that this stuff happens, and this is a thing, right? It's an actual thing. So we will get into this. With, of course, your input, we the people. We're also going to have some additional discussion tonight. There's a lot of things I want to get into tonight, not the least of which is, obviously the news of the day. But there's more, right? There's plenty more. So I want you to keep it locked right here. And people always ask me, they constantly ask me about, oh, you spoke with so-and-so the other day, and how do I get that? Well, I have to direct you to our website, richvaldez.com. And that's Valdez with an S. If you go to richvaldez.com, you can get the most recent episode there. You can find some of our archives. You can stream all sorts of things from there without signing up for anything. It's all absolutely free. You could see the show description, so you could find out, who was in that show, and you could share it with somebody if you like. Now, if you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can. You can do the podcast for the show, or you can do my OG classic podcast, This is America, with Rich Valdez. It's a shortened version, different from the show. You can sign up for that as well. Been on a hiatus, but we're coming back, and we're coming back hard. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I put that out there because I get those requests pretty frequently. And straight ahead, we're going to get into a little bit of what is going on in the minds of people who are suffering tragedy, right? There's tragedy with the people who saw this explosion in California. There's tragedy with what we're talking about here, these people that are victims of crime in Washington, D.C. that, allegedly their police are covering up. And there's people that are victims of tragedy in Texas with this flooding that occurred, and people having to figure out how they're going to navigate and cope traumatic loss in many ways on a mass scale. So I want to talk to a pro about that and really get a good understanding from his perspective of what people can do and what we can expect, what the emotional and mental toll is going to be of this flooding tragedy in Texas that happened in the beginning of the week. So keep it locked right here, folks. I am Rich Valdez, coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Tell us what happened during the floods to me.
Sometime in the night, I woke up to the sound of water, and I thought, God, is it raining? And the next thing I know, oh no. I woke up, my bed was floating, my nightstand was floating. I got down off the bed and the water was above my head. And so I climbed back on the bed and the water sucked me out through my kitchen, out through my back door. And the next thing I knew, I was floating, in the dark. I wear glasses, and I couldn't really see. I saw my truck float by me and a couple other cars. And, I was looking for something to grab onto, and I found a tree, and I held onto that, and the water kept rising. So I got up on a wall, and I sat on the wall, and it kept rising. And, JC and I are having a conversation, God, I'm not ready for you. You're not ready for me. I don't want my mom to have to bury me.
So that is a part of what you're hearing going on is the description of people that survived this flooding in Texas. And that's courtesy of ABC 8 WFAA television. And what a harrowing experience it was. So many people dealing with the stress of that, the post-traumatic stress of that. And I wanted to get a sense of what I guess we can expect moving forward. Obviously, these people are going to need help, and this is going to take a toll on them. But, of course, there's a mental toll, an emotional toll, a financial toll. And I want to focus on that mental and emotional component with our guest, Dr. Daniel Bober. He's a psychiatrist, and he's with us now. Doc, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So when you hear this type of account of people, floating through their homes, getting whisked away by water, just rushing through their houses, this is obviously scary for many people. Most people have not been in this type of flood. And I would venture to say they're never going to be the same. But what do they have to do? What do we have to do as a community to make sure they bounce back somehow?
Well, listen, there's trauma on multiple levels. There's trauma at the individual level, but there's also trauma on the collective and societal level, erosion of basic resources, schools, grocery stores, things like that. And then we're talking about the death of several children. So that really complicates the grief process. And so the initial reaction is the cognitive shock and disbelief. People can't actually believe it's happening. And then eventually the sensory overload sets in, and there's kind of a shutdown or a numbing, if you will. And then finally, you come to terms with the fact of what's going on. And at that point, there's sort of that fight or flight response that we hear so much about. And then up to 50% of people will develop post-traumatic stress disorder, where nightmares, re-experiencing, hypervigilance, avoidance of certain situations and triggers in the environment. For example, in a flood, if it started raining, you might be triggered. You might feel like there's going to be another flood. And so your a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is involved in fear and aggression, is on overdrive. So these are just part of the physiological responses to people who have gone through such trauma.
How do you treat that?
So as it turns out, the majority of people are resilient and will recover. But for some people, they will need specific types of therapy, such as EMDR, cognitive reprocessing theory, trauma-focused therapy, and some will actually need medication too. And the goal of this all is not to return to normal. It's to find a new understanding. Recovery from trauma is not about the pain going away. It's about you becoming bigger than the pain and learning to live with it and finding at the end of the road a deeper understanding of your relationships with other people, a richer experience for life, and an appreciation for the things that you've been through. One of the things that I will tell you in dealing with people who've suffered from trauma is if you ask them if they can erase their trauma, the majority of them, believe it or not, have told me no, because their trauma is what made them who they are. And it created much more meaning in their lives, and they embrace it.
Wow. So if that's a part of their identity, how do you become bigger than your identity to get over it?
Well, it's not an on and off switch. It's a process. It takes time. The very, very beginning requires what we call psychological first aid, which is just reestablishing basic things like grocery stores and schools and your job. And then, of course, being able to function on just the most basic level. That's part of it. And trying to reestablish your routines and it affects people at different ages differently. So kids, for example, who aren't able to verbalize their feelings may be more likely to act out. So they may have stomach aches. They may wet the bed. And you may see adolescents acting out more, taking high-risk situations, using substances. And then adults, which experience the aforementioned PTSD symptoms I was talking about. So everyone deals with trauma differently. People at higher risk for trauma very often are people who've experienced previous trauma. And then your own genetic makeup. If you're someone who's been prone to depression and anxiety in the past, then you may be more prone to developing trauma. And one of the best predictors of recovery is community support. Having a social support network is very, very helpful in these types of situations.
Wow. Well, what do you recommend for people, that are listening? We're on plenty of radio stations in Texas, and they're hearing this conversation. What's your recommendation for seeking support? How do they move forward?
So my recommendation is, obviously, depending on your finances or where you are in your life right now, there's the disaster helpline through SAMHSA, or the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And if you're really struggling, there's also the 988 hotline. So these are free resources that people can go through if they're really struggling, both mentally and, of course, financially as well.
Dr. Daniel Bober, psychiatrist. Let everybody know how they can follow your work and learn more about you.
So you can see me on Instagram at drbober, Dr. Daniel Bober, or my website, which is drbober.com.
Outstanding. Well, I want to thank you for being here. I know you have to go. I'm not going to keep you, but I wish you a good weekend, and thank you for bringing us up to speed on this.
Absolutely. My pleasure, and I wish everyone a speedy recovery.
Amen. And amigos, we're going to be taking your calls on this topic. Have you been in not only a flood, but a traumatic situation that, you didn't think you were going to recover from, and then you did? I think many of us have been through different types of trauma, different types of experiences. But this type of thing is, I'm glad it's not the norm for most, right? I'm glad most people can't say, yeah, I was in my house once and this river came crashing through my apartment, right? That's not a normal occurrence for most people, and thank God it isn't. But for those of you who have, I can tell you a quick story. When I was 12, my mom's house, my parents had split up, and my dad lived across the street from my mom, and I was with my mom. I went outside, and from leaving the house to getting to the front of the house, it had started to go on fire, and it burned to the ground. I saw the whole thing. Very, very traumatic. And I didn't consider it traumatic at the time. You only realize that later on in life when you're a little bit more cautious about fire than everybody else, right? And that's what the good doctor was explaining about the amygdala already responding, whether you want to respond or not, because it senses those types of situations. So, that, of course, everybody got out well and nobody was harmed by the fire, but the property. But the fact remains, people go through things all the time. And I'm curious to know how you made it through. So give me a call. Plus, there's lots more on the agenda to discuss. We're going to do some Trump, a little Epstein, a little this, a little that. 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
So glad to be on your show, Rich. It's just an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And we're going to be taking some of your calls on interesting things that you want to share. And also, have you been through some crazy traumatic experiences, and what did you do to get through those experiences? So we're going to do that. Plus, there's a bunch of things that I want to get to tonight. But I want to start with our buddy Paul. Paul is one of our faithful callers, and always has something good to say. Paul, Boise, Idaho, let's go to you. Talk to me about if you have a traumatic experience that you've went through and came out on the other side and how you did it.
Oh, wow. I think the realization that I had to come to and to accept the fact that I was an alcoholic, and I never in my life ever wanted to be one, but I found myself in the unenviable position to accept that I was, and that it was in a long line of my family. So I wasn't the only one that had ever been born with the last name that I've got that had died. I didn't die from alcoholism, but I could have if I would have kept on drinking as I was
Wow.
at that time. And my grandfather was one. He was a very influential person. Two of his sisters, one of his brothers all died from alcoholism. And so I was destined to become one before I was born. I just didn't know it because, you know, the DNA, you know, they can find that stuff before you're hit with it. But nevertheless, you have to take the responsibility for your actions up to that point, no matter how dire your situation is in life at that particular time. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and say, you know, this has maybe got me licked for this amount of time for this reason, but I'm not going to let it take me down all the way. And, you know, I'm just, believe it or not, Rich, I'm just one drink from a drunk. All I have to take is one, and it's all over with. You won't hear from me again.
Brother, I get that. I really do. You know, I was fat. I was just under 270, 269 pounds, 5'8", very fat. And I ate like food was going out of style, and I had no idea until people started pointing it out, and they're like, wow, you could eat the whole pie of pizza? And I was like, yeah, you don't? And everything, I mean, an hour later, I'd be like, you know what, I can wash this down with some White Castle. Maybe have a little, you know, stop at McDonald's on the other side of the highway for some fries. I mean, I was a fast food junkie. Had no idea. Just because you make excuses for yourself, right? You say, oh, my gosh, I'm busy. I'm on the road. I work here. I work there. I keep odd hours. This is the only way to live. And if you carry it well and you dress well, then people just, you know, when they find out your weight, and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm 269. And they're like, get out of here. You don't look that big. Wow. Well, you carry it really well. That's all I needed to hear, was that I was handsome and I carried my fat well. All I wanted to do was eat more. So I totally get it that, you know, now I'm down to 192, 193 pounds. And I can tell you that I feel like I'm one, you know, big burger away from being that guy again. And I never want to be that guy again. So I get that type of pressure. I really do. It's so real, right? It's a genuine thing. It never really goes away, the desire to eat all that. I mean, it gets minimized, I would say, but it doesn't really go away, if that makes sense, Paul.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a predilection for the DNA to be in your system that's going to make you an alcoholic. Maybe just that first time you have that first beer with your friends sharing a six-pack, and you suddenly have this feeling come over you like, wow, I've waited for this feeling all my life. And you're a 12-year-old kid, but nevertheless, that's how you get indoctrinated into it. And before you know it, you're one of the Bowery Boys. And that's you know, it's not a curse for some people. It's not a curse for me. I have to be very respectful of it.
Right.
And know I've got it, and you know, I'll have it till the day I die, and I don't want to die drunk in a ditch somewhere.
How do you manage all that? Is it you just keep reminding yourself, like, hey, this is it? You know, like for me, my brother always told me, listen, when it comes to drugs, don't try it. You'll never miss it. And I don't know why. That seemed like the best advice I'd ever gotten. And for the most part, I've stuck with it. I was like, you know what? You're right. Because I felt afraid that I might like it if I did it, because I liked soda and I liked cheeseburgers and I liked everything else that was bad for me. So I was like, you know what? You're right. Don't try it. I won't miss it. That seems like a great strategy. But I realize some people experiment, and there goes that one.
Right. No, I get a daily reminder of it every day. I have plenty of reading materials to remind me but I make sure I put my foot inside the meeting room, and I hope that person was less than 1 day, maybe 12 hours since their last drink. And I remember just exactly what I felt like at that same time, back when I got sober 31 years ago. And I'll tell you, it's an eye opener. And, and it's a great, it keeps you right on the beam.
Yeah, I bet you it's a humbling experience. I want to congratulate you on your 31 years of sobriety. Godspeed to you, brother. That's an amazing accomplishment, and I really appreciate you sharing it with us. Before we go, did you want to make a comment about the deep state? I saw that in my notes here, but I started talking about traumatic stuff.
I had two occasions in my caddying days that I met John McCone, who was the CIA director at one time. And I didn't know who he was or what his past was like. At that particular time, it was about 1981, 82. And he was a very, very old, decrepit man, but he was out for a walk more than anything else. He didn't care about the game that much. But he, there was questions afterwards when I found out who he was. I wanted to ask him questions about the JFK assassination and was the CIA involved and all that. And,
yeah, who wouldn't, right? Yeah, I got to interview a former CIA director not that long ago, a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half, something like that. And I asked him about, that happened to be that we were talking about a book he was promoting, Mike Pompeo, but the Los Angeles Times that day had put this headline out there saying that he was responsible for the death of Jamal Khashoggi. And, how could I not ask, right? So I asked, and I think he was a little taken aback by it, and I didn't mean any offense by it, but I wanted to know. So I just asked him. I said, hey, Mr. Secretary, did you kill Jamal Khashoggi? And he was like, wow. I didn't expect that response. But, yeah, when you have someone that's a former Secretary of State / CIA director, that's a lot of experience and a lot of things that they know. And how could you not want to pick their brain? It makes all the sense in the world. Paul, I got to take a pause right here, but we're going to come right back, continuing with your calls. I see calls from Rockville, Maryland, and more. The lines are flashing. If you want to get in, feel free. We're doing some old school call-in talk radio. And the number to join the program, here it is, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio, and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
All right, amigos, Rich Valdez, keeping you company all night long. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. I want to continue with our conversations and how you all have managed your traumatic situations. Let's go to Rockville, Maryland, WMAL. Victor, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Hi there. First off, good show. Good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're doing your good work.
Thanks. It sounds like you got a set of pipes on you, too. You a radio guy?
No, I just do what I do. I'm actually an aerospace engineer.
Oh, wow.
But
I'm just an aerospace engineer. That's pretty cool.
Well, and I also fly with the Coast Guard as an auxiliary officer. We fly missions to Chesapeake Bay. And we had a very bad mission one time, came back, and the weather caught us. And after some trouble, we did manage to get down, but the pilot came in hot. We went off the end of the runway and flipped the airplane over. And, number of damaging things. It was really, really pretty rough. I got everybody out. Everybody walked away. But the fact is I had internal damage that wasn't diagnosed for way too long. So
like physical damage, like internal bleeding and stuff like that?
Internal bleeding, yeah. And I nearly bled to death internally.
Wow.
But the overcoming it comes down to, for me anyway, having something to focus on. I was going to get myself all the way back to normal, one way or another. And I still have lingering hip and back damage and neck damage, and I have to watch out because of the torn tissue inside my guts every once in a while. If I get an infection in there or a flare-up, we have to attack it very quickly before it does anything, makes more bleeding. But the focus on not letting what happened to me be who I am, the focus on getting back to who I was, who I am. In fact, I just pulled up. I'm in front of the gym. I'm going to go in and ride the bicycle for a little while.
Good for you.
It was traumatic. There is absolutely no belittling anyone who's been through something where they nearly died. If it's a matter of people being around really good friends, I have a cadre of friends that are people I can lean on. It was unfortunate because there was some issues with getting help from the Coast Guard. I wasn't actually able to talk to a psychologist for a while because even though it was diagnosed, there was red tape to get through. And it was almost 3 years before I talked to a psych doctor. But having people, it's not necessarily just community. Community makes it sound a little bit abstract. No, your friends, your relatives right there with you, the people who you can have a beer with, the people who you can sit down and talk to around a campfire, that kind of thing to make you feel that you still have value, even if something has been taken away from you and you might feel less valuable. And then, yeah, having the focus on the mission. My mission was to get everything back. And now I can still do everything. Yeah, things hurt sometimes. There are parts of me that are not what they once were. Running really hurts like hell when I do that. But I can still do everything. I still go swimming. I still go on long hikes with a rucksack. I still shoot pictures of birds and butterflies. I still fly. I get out there and make the world part of my life rather than having the world taken away from me.
Yeah. What I'm gleaning from this is you just keep moving forward. It's, you never accept any type of failure, and you just keep going and looking for that victory. And I think that's good. It's a testament to, obviously, to your character. But it's also a very good piece of advice for those of us listening. Well, Victor, I want to thank you, obviously, for sharing with us. Thanks for your service. This is a pretty cool story. You should probably do a little audiobook since you got the pipes for it, right? Doing a search and rescue mission and then your own plane crashes. That's really quite the story, and turn it into the story of how you overcame it. I think it would bless somebody down the road. What do I know, right? Sounds like a good story to me. But I appreciate it, and Godspeed to you, sir. Thanks for the call. Rockville, Maryland, WMAL. Keeping it on WMAL, and going into Virginia, we're going to go with Ray. Ray, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Hey, Rich. It's great to talk to you. I listen to you pretty often because I go back and forth from Northern Virginia to the Eastern Shore. And WMAL is actually my favorite radio station.
That's
you
awesome.
gotta love it. Hey, I was telling your caller, I have a couple things I could talk to you about, but I was telling your caller that last year my wife and I were out in Asheville, North Carolina, and then Chimney Rock, North Carolina. And I think they're about 30 to 40 miles apart. And that was when that hurricane came up through Georgia and hit North Carolina and flooded all those people out. And we saw the videos and the pictures of it after it happened, and it's like, holy cow, we had just been there, and it just looked like a bomb hit it.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I remember speaking with somebody who was there like the next day, had him on the show, to describe what was going on. He was a volunteer with a group that was out there of like retired Green Beret Special Forces types of guys that were out there helping. And I remember, he heard an audio clip that we played, and he said, that's got to be old, because I just saw them drop off something like 100 body bags. And it was just jarring to hear that. We were talking about a death toll that was like in the teens or something. And he was saying that, they were dropping off body bags, north of 100. And it gives you pause, right? Where you say, wow, this is, like you said, like a bomb hit it, right? You're thinking flood, and you're thinking whatever flood you personally know or have seen. But some of these floods are the type of thing none of us have ever seen, Ray.
You just never know. I was listening to the Coast Guard guy talk about, having a problem with his plane. And it was last year I was on my sailboat, and I was coming back from the St. Mary's River down across the Potomac, and then was going to go across the bay. And a front came through, and I'm like, holy cow. I had torn my main in the race the night before, so I'm like, all right, I can't motor against this stuff. I can't sail across it. So I ducked into this place called Reedville. It's on the Great Comical. It's off the bay, but it's just south of the Potomac. And as I'm going in, it's like the winds went down to about 12 knots. And I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. But then I looked at the sky, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look good. And, big dark clouds and stuff. So I'm going in. I made a wrong turn, which was actually fortunate, because I found an anchorage, and I threw my anchor and set the anchor alarm and went below, and all of a sudden my anchor alarm starts going off as the storm's hitting, and I start dragging anchor, and I'm like, holy crap, this isn't good.
Wow.
So I had to fire up my engine, and it was just me by myself, so I just fired up the engine and kept steering the boat into the wind and just holding steady, because otherwise it was going to drive me onto the shore. And at one point I look, and my wind meter said, wind instrument said 42 knots, and I'm like, looking, I'm like, is that right? And then the next one was like 48. And I'm like, holy crap. So I just did that for like 20, 30 minutes until that storm blew over.
Wow, so you literally weathered the storm.
Oh, yeah. Definitely weathered the storm. But what was wild was I guess it's about 40 or 50 miles away, and I'm trying to remember the name of the town. It was Southern Maryland. They had a big bouncy thing for the kids.
And that flew right into the water. I imagine those things take off like kites on a regular windy day. Unbelievable. I'm glad you're well. I got to pause right here. Ray in Virginia. Shout out to WMAL. Be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with your success stories, how you got out of a very tricky situation. Talking about trauma and traumatic experiences. Let's go to Loanne, Fairfax, Virginia, WMAL. Welcome. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hi, Rich. I came here back in 1975 as one of the boat people, and I was only 11 and a half years old. And
which boat?
One of the Vietnam War, 1975.
Oh, okay.
So I was one of the boat people. And so it took me 3 years to get used to where I am at, because I never knew the United States existed. And so, it's really funny. We had 6 siblings. My dad was captured by the communists, and it was my mom. My mom and 6 kids was on the boat, go from Vietnam.
Wow, that is such a story. I hate to cut you off, but we're out of time on the show. Loanne, I want you to call back as often as you can, because that's a great story, and I want to hear the end of it. But I'm glad you're here and that you're doing well. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? It's Rich Valdez. We're back for another hour. Happy to be with you this Friday night. We're live. We're national, 7 minutes after the top of the hour. And our phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, I encourage you to do it. The phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. We just had some conversation about trauma, right? Traumatic instances and how you get through them. And it was great calls. Great. I mean, the calls that we received and the stories that were shared were just fantastic. And I want to continue on this mental health stuff, but not from the perspective of trauma, more so on the perspective of how our political discussions and breaking news is messing people up, right? Specifically, what we call TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. Now, TDS, I think, is a real thing, and it probably already has its own mental health classification, right? Because I've met a bunch of people, even people that don't like Trump. They'll admit Trump could do anything he wants, and nobody's going to like him because they just don't like him. And matter of fact, we have a clip of that, of Trump saying, I could do the best things, I have the best words, I do the best things, and people still won't like it. And there's truth in that. And the reason there's truth in it is because they're not driven by logic, they're driven by hate. But check out this clip from Trump.
Once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, and these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
That's President Trump sharing his thoughts. And the issue here is because he's talking about, signing bills into law, about things that are actually happening in his administration. And this stuff is lost on a lot of people. I mean, Trump is so successful right now as a president, in my opinion, that people are, the haters, his detractors, they are so beside themselves, so focused on their anger, on their dissent, that they don't see the fact that, for example, I might be wrong, but not far off. Congresswoman AOC, I would venture to say, right, she was elected in 18. All right, 18 to 20. That's one term, 20 to 22, 2 terms, 22 to 24, 3 terms. Right, so she's a 3-term congresswoman that's going into her 4th, right? Or in her 4th. She's going to keep running and keep doing what she does. The point I'm making is that AOC, as far as I know, and I'm not going to Google her or anything, but I think she's done less than half a dozen bills that she's sponsored and brought and got signed into law. If I'm telling the truth, I believe it's only one, at least the last time I checked. But it's been a while, so I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. You guys could do the homework for me if you want. But it was something about a mailbox. I mean, a mail post office. She added the name of an individual that was to be honored to the name of a post office in the Bronx. And that was the bill that she proposed and introduced and got signed into law. Maybe there was one after that, and she might have been a co-sponsor on other ones, but I'm talking about stuff she specifically sponsored. She's a lawmaker, right? And I'm doing this, A, yes, to pick on her a little bit, but B, to show how it's not that easy to introduce legislation, get it into your committee, get it out of committee, get it to the full caucus, to get it to the full House, and get it onto the president's desk after it goes through the House and the Senate. it's a task. And here's Trump signing bills, right? He was signing bills on the 4th of July. He's signing a bill today. He's going to sign, I think he's going to sign another one tomorrow. The other stuff, and there were several that he signed. And this is a big deal, right? It's a big deal. Just that part is a big deal, let alone what this stuff signifies, what the impact that's associated with this. So my thinking here is why and how? Why and how are people so focused on this? And this Trump Derangement Syndrome. I just had a good afternoon. A good buddy of mine stopped by on his way after work, and we were catching up. I was telling him about my trip to Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, a couple of weeks ago, and we inevitably we got into talking about politics. He loves to talk about politics, and he can't stand Trump. And he says, "Well, what do you have to tell me? What's Trump doing good?" And I said, "Well, hold on a second. What isn't going well right now?" And he started to try and take everything apart. And I said, "Listen, brother, really?" He's like, I don't know about you, but he's like, nothing is cheaper for me. And I said, do you have a 401k? I mean, just look around, man. Just look around. Things are getting better every day. I feel like they're getting better. And he says, I'm drinking the Trump Kool-Aid. And I tell him, I think you have TDS. So it was just quite a conversation, quite a back and forth. But there are people, it doesn't matter what Trump does, what he does for the economy. This is a guy who does a considerable amount of overtime. And he says, at the end of the day, they're limiting that. This isn't even a law that's going to be around forever. It's going to sunset eventually. We're going to have to, like we did with the big, beautiful bill, we're going to have to add it back in to make it permanent. This is a disaster. And I said, it's not a disaster. You're going to save money, on your overtime. And he just rejected it. He just would not accept it. And it's because, again, he abandoned logic because he wanted to hold on to his angst, his view, which is, I'm going to say, guided by dislike. I don't want to say hate because he's a really nice guy. But I know he hates a lot of the ideas of Trump and Trump being successful. And it boggles the mind because these are things that in his situation, things that actually help him. So I want to get some input on that from somebody who knows a whole lot, as well as from you guys. We've got some calls from California, Illinois, and others that are on the line. Let me give everybody the number again. We're definitely going to get to a lot of your calls tonight. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. And we're going to be checking in with Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, known as America's Psychiatrist. And we're going to get a little bit of a head shrinking session, if you will, on why people suffer from TDS and should it, if it's not already classified under another name, can we get this on the books, like in the DSM-5? TDS, a real thing? I don't know. We're going to find out straight ahead with Dr. Carole. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations.
Thank you,
somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I want to, again, bring in our guest, Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's known as America's Psychiatrist. And she's been on the show a number of times. She's terrific. I always appreciate her making the time to join us. She's got a doctorate degree in medicine, MD. She's also got a master's in public health. And she has a great amount of experience as an expert witness. And I want to get some psychoanalysis here of this topic that, people hate Trump. Should Trump Derangement Syndrome be classified as its own mental illness, or is it already part of one and we're just, nicknaming it TDS? Dr. Carole, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
So, what do you think? Is this this thing where people could, do whatever they want that's positive and beneficial, and because they don't like them for some personality reason, they abandon all logic and they just lead with emotions like anger, hate, frustration? What is this called in your world?
Well, you're talking about Trump Derangement Syndrome. I mean, you're talking about it being directed towards him. Is
Yes.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I have been working now let's see, since May, I've been working on developing a clearly defined diagnosis for mild, moderate, and severe cases of Trump Derangement Syndrome. For the purpose of which is to propose it to the American Psychiatric Association to be included in their diagnostic and statistical manual.
Nice.
I do think it is it should be defined, it should be included, it should be acknowledged as a formal disorder, because it's not, it's got, this existed when during his first term. I mean, I'm sure you heard about it, you might have even been talking about it and so on during his first term, but it's
Sure.
nothing like what it's what it's like now. It's so much more serious now. And so first of all, I define it as an irrational, quasi-psychotic hatred of anything Trump that results in rage and over-the-top efforts to destroy him and his work. And then, I talk about the mild and the moderate and the severe categories. And one reason why it's taking me longer than I had anticipated to finish with this is because every week there is somebody else who deserves to be included in this. Comey, for example, that was a recent example. Even the Pope, who he's following in Pope Francis's footsteps, and he had lots of tweets about Trump and being very critical. And there are all kinds of, then for the mild cases, I talk about Ladies of the View. The moderate cases, the presidents of colleges, for example, and judges I put in the severe category because they are really going against their, what they swore to uphold. So in the severe category, so I have these different criteria. I don't know how much you want to hear about that, but some of the people include Rosie O'Donnell, Ellen DeGeneres, New York Attorney General.
All the ones that moved away. That's how bad it got.
Yes, right.
It's like
that's
quarantine.
Part of it. Yes, the attacks on Teslas, because it's not just about Trump. It's like his inner circle.
Right.
And, Elon was in his inner circle. Then, let's see. And then, of course, the assassination attempts. Thomas Matthew Crooks, Ryan Wesley Ruth, and then the one that they inspired, the Wisconsin teen, Nikita Kassup, who killed his parents in order to get their inheritance and then be able to pursue his plot to assassinate the president. Then we have James Comey, who, pretended that he just came across these shells on the beach, a cool shell formation on my beach walk that read 8647, and then he pretended that it just meant that, they were out of stock in a restaurant. Then the No Kings, then the latest is the No Kings movement. So there is no sooner do I think that I'm all set than there are more people to include. And I have written this up in a way that goes according to the DSM. I mean, I actually was involved in a committee years ago for in regard to the diagnoses of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And the question was, do we connect it? Do we have a separate diagnosis for schizoaffective schizophrenia, which is basically combination of bipolar and schizophrenic symptoms, or do we keep them separate? Anyway, I was on a committee that met for a year, and that was part of what was decided to how it was decided to be included in the DSM. So I'm familiar with this. But, when I was doing that back in the day, I was actually a psychiatric resident at the time at Bellevue. But there's been a change. Yes, I was I was precocious, and I was very involved with the American Psychiatric Association for years, starting in my residency. I was involved in their national committee for public affairs, a whole bunch of different things. But, the American Psychiatric Association has changed significantly. I looked up their website a couple of weeks ago, for the proper way to propose a new diagnosis. And now it is so woke. It is unbelievable, kind of like the American Medical Association and the American Psychological Association. They have all become so woke. I mean, it is so sad. Because if these organizations don't have their head on right, aren't rational, how are they going to take care of people's health, their mental health and their physical health, if they don't know which sex?
Right.
How many genders there are? So anyway, but regardless, I am making the effort because the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is used for a couple of things. First, for people who are mental health professionals to be able to have a common language, to be able to be talking about certain diagnoses and know what each other means. And then the other reason is for insurance companies, because they decide based upon how the diagnoses are described in the DSM, how they're going to pay. What they're going to pay for people's treatment and how long they're going to pay and things like that. So if indeed it gets to be an acknowledged diagnosis in the book, in the DSM, then it could open the doors for people with Trump Derangement Syndrome to get some of their treatment paid. The only problem is that people with TDS don't think they have a problem.
Right. And while you were saying all that, one thing that, I found as a common denominator is that I don't think this is something you can catch, and I don't think it's something people are genetically predisposed to, but again, I don't have research to back that up. But my hypothesis here is that this stuff all stems from negative reports of President Trump and the media's severe bias that literally turned people against him.
Well, yes, that is a big part of it, but it's also, I am psychoanalytically trained, and so I look at why it is from a psychoanalytic perspective, and part of that has to do with people who are unhappy with their lives. They blame Trump. They project everything onto Trump. But yes, of course, the media has a lot to do with it.
Well, let's pick up right there when we come back with Dr. Carole Lieberman, America's psychiatrist. And we're also going to get a little psychoanalysis. You just mentioned your training in that on that big story of the week, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Folks, keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez coming right back with Dr. Carole Lieberman.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Ghislaine Maxwell, serving 20 years for child sex trafficking, is willing to testify before Congress about Jeffrey Epstein's network, according to Daily Mail. Sources say she's never been offered a plea deal or asked to share what she knows, but she would welcome the chance to tell the American public the truth. Elon Musk reportedly warned Maxwell against revealing names, saying, "She will say she has nothing, of course. The consequences of revealing anything would be negative for her." The remark has sparked speculation that powerful individuals are afraid of being exposed.
Well, there's a little something from Times New World. And what's interesting there is I think that whole report was phony, right? That remark is what's sparking speculation. No, the speculation's been around for a decade, easily. So I think a lot of that report was just not accurate. But it doesn't change the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is likely off her rocker. And when they say, according to sources, I'd say she's the source. You mean to tell me that this woman is in prison and been given 20 years on sex trafficking and wasn't offered an opportunity to give up information that she likely had, in her possession? Of course they offered her a plea deal. She's probably serving one right now, for all we know. It's the United States government. The DOJ doesn't play around. I've never heard of such a thing. So I think that whole report was a little funny, honestly. But it opens up the conversation to figure out, is she trying to create leverage? Is she just off her rocker? And to get to the bottom of that, to find out, what's the psychoanalytical profile of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein? Is there any commonality? And, do they give any telltale signs of being crazy people? I want to know. And I want to ask Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's known worldwide as America's psychiatrist. We met her years ago during 9/11 as the terrorist therapist, and she's the host of Dr. Carol's Couch on Voice America. Is that right? VoiceAmerica.com. What's the website for the show?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And
right.
and of course your podcast, The Terrorist Therapist, as well. So, Dr. Carole, welcome back. Give us the scoop.
Well, I think I may have a more generous.
Doc, I'm sorry, but get closer to the mouthpiece because your voice is drifting.
Sure. I think I may have a more generous view of Ghislaine Maxwell than a lot of people, because, this is how I see it. Her father died when she was 30 years old. She was living in England, and after that she came to. And there's an interesting thing about that, because it was a question of, he was on a boat, and there was a question whether he jumped off or he accidentally fell off and drowned. Just like there's the question about Jeffrey Epstein, was it suicide or not? So she came to New York, and she met Jeffrey Epstein. Well, she had been introduced to him before that by her father, and I think that she saw him as kind of a father figure, and she was attracted to him, and she would have wanted to stay his girlfriend indefinitely, but he, I think he didn't have the same idea. He didn't want to keep it to be just he didn't want to be limited to just her, and and so her procuring these girls. That's the main reason, and I don't know that she would even admit it to herself, but the main reason was because she wanted to keep him happy. She wanted him to keep being in love with her. And
so if that part is true, I just want to ask this question. If that part is accurate, then she sounds like a lot of women that are trying to keep a man happy. Is it safe to say that that's normal behavior, or is it some sort of crazy behavior to procure young girls and pimp them out? That sounds crazy to me.
Well, yes. Obviously that's really drastic and not moral and all that. It shows how desperate she was to hold on to him. And no, I don't think that. It's amazing, because here she was really beautiful. She is a beautiful woman. She had all this money, and she was smart, and she had a good education. She didn't have to be this desperate, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And she could have found other men, but she, this is what happens with women.
Now, well, let's talk about that. Why does that happen? Why do you have a beautiful, millionaire, billionaire type of woman here that's successful and comes from a powerful family? And she's, I guess she sees the wealth and success and the power of Jeffrey Epstein, but he's a pretty crooked guy. Why? Why do that and then go to these lengths to do crazy things to keep a guy like that? What does that say about her?
Well, Well, again, I think the fact that her father introduced her to him, the fact that that made her sort of see him as kind of a father figure. She didn't really know a lot of people in New York when she first came. I mean, he's a bad boy. Why do women fall in love with bad boys? That was my first book. Bad boys. Why we love them, how to live with them, and when to leave them. Of course, my next book, and that down the line, I wrote Bad Girls. So she could actually fit into both of the books. But, bad boys like Jeffrey Epstein, they have this very powerful attraction. And what it comes from is the dysfunctional relationship that the woman has with her father. And with all, I'm not just talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. And so depending upon what kind of dysfunctional relationship that the little girl had with her father, that sends her in the direction of 12 different types of bad boys. And so that is what happened with her. And now, I think what really makes me, I think first of all, that a lot of the women who were suing them both, wanted to get their money. Nobody I'm not condoning procuring underage girls for any man.
I didn't think you were.
But these girls, they weren't locked up in Jeffrey Epstein's basement. They weren't prisoners. And so they kept coming back. Now, why do they keep coming back? Mainly the money, the promises of he could start their career in this or in that, all of these different things. But they chose to do it. And the thing that really gets me angry is how her trial went. Because I'm sure you know about this, that after the trial, when they were interviewing this man who was on the jury, and it turned out that he had been sexually abused himself, and he was the one who had a big voice in the jury, telling them things like, yes, it's true that when you're sexually abused, you can forget things. Like he was trying to explain why these women who were the plaintiffs, why some of them forgot certain important parts. And he was saying, oh, well, yes, when I was sexually abused, blah, blah, blah. And it turned out that he had not been honest on the statement for voir dire. He didn't write that he had been sexually abused. He probably would have been not selected to be on the jury. And so, that's the part that I think if she gets another trial, which I think she should because of that.
Now, let me ask you a question. Because I think a lot of people are upset with this case because many of the prostitutes, some of them were 11 years old, 14 years old, some were 16 and 17. So, when you say that they weren't held against their will, I'm thinking, does any 11-year-old really sign up to become a prostitute? It sounds like coercion to me.
Well, yes. I mean, she knew she was good at finding vulnerable victims, finding girls who would be most easily coerced. That is true. But, not all of them were 11 years old. I mean, most of them were older than that. And I know they came from bad homes. Some of them had already been sexually abused, like by a father or by, some stranger or something. So, and they were poor, a lot of them, or at least they didn't have a lot of money.
Right, so this is a way out.
So, yes, they saw this, they rationalized it for why this was worth it.
Crazy stuff. Now, Dr. Carole, what would you say if you had to, and I'm not asking you to diagnose them, but if hypothetically speaking, if you had to diagnose Epstein and Maxwell, which diagnosis would you give to each? 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Well, they're both narcissists. Ghislaine is histrionic. I mean, Epstein, Epstein had sexual depravity. That's not a diagnosis in the DSM either. But I mean, it's certainly his sexual proclivities were really extremely abnormal. Really, I mean, you have to wonder what happened to him when he was a child. Was he sexually abused? And yes, of course, he He was narcissistic. They were both histrionic. They might have both been borderline, but they kind of found each other, and together they made this team that caused a lot of damage.
Very fascinating. Now, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, because people are listening, and I'm sure they're going to want to check out your program and your website. Go right ahead.
Sure. Well, related to what we're talking about, I have a website called Expert Witness Forensic Psychiatrist.com. And then another one of my websites is terroristtherapist.com. And of course, I'm on X, Twitter. And, I rant on Twitter. So that's another good place.
One of the best places to do it, right?
Yes.
Dr. Carole Lieberman, ranting on Twitter and giving us the best. Thank you for everything. I appreciate, again, you being here and being flexible with your time and really, sharing a lot of your expertise with us. Folks, check out her website as well. Follow her on X. I do. She's great to follow. And Dr. Carole, I want to wish you a good weekend. Godspeed to you.
Thank you. To you, too.
You bet. And amigos, your calls are coming up right now. Pittsburgh, Atlanta, San Diego, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company on this Friday night. We're live. We're national. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Looking forward to hearing from you. Doesn't matter if you're from Oregon or California or New York or Florida or one of our news stations. There's a couple of news stations I want to welcome, and I'll do it again on Monday. But I want to welcome KRLL, Columbia, Jefferson City. Shout out to you guys. KTLO, Springfield, Missouri. KTMP, Salt Lake City. Welcome to the Rich Valdez family. Trying to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on in America at night. And if you want to sound off on that, give me a call, 833-4-VALDEZ. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to all of our existing affiliates. It's always a great time on our national conversation here in late night. And I want to start off with Sam. Let's go to Sam. He's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on KDKA. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much for taking my call, Rich. How are you doing tonight?
Wonderful. Thank you.
I just wanted to touch a little bit about the trauma conversation that you were having earlier on in your show.
Sure.
I'll just start from the beginning. A little bit over a year ago, my parents were in front row in attendance in a rally for Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. And we've never gone public with this information. But my mother, who's a school teacher, one of the kindest, most loving women I've ever met in my entire life, was wounded as well in the gunfire during that rally. And it took a very long time for me to wrap my head around the fact that my mother was wounded in a presidential assassination attempt. And it was traumatic, and it was very traumatic for the entire community, for my family personally. Corey Comparator and his family, losing his life there in front of his family. It was absolutely very traumatic on them as well, and pretty much on the entire Pittsburgh community as well. But I tell you what, over this past year, it's been a long journey of finding God, realizing the miracles that he provided that day. bringing us together as a community. And last week, we were able to have a motorcycle ride and a concert in Corey Comparator's honor. And at that event, a lot of the people who were in the crowd were able to reunite, kind of relive that traumatic day. But instead of mourning, we were celebrating. And we were celebrating the life of Corey, raising money for a tremendous cause, and got the community together. And Rich, I don't know if you saw online the photos of the flag that was shaped like an angel over that rally that
it was
day
hanging
that
off of the
happened.
crane.
So that flag was in attendance at the event that we had this past week, and my mother, along with other people who were also involved in that, in the Comparator family, were able to fold that flag and put it in its final display forever. And I cannot tell you what that meant to my family and me to be able to overcome that trauma and have that be a part of us, but also to
have your mom
together and have a new family, and to have my mom and the president, still around, and just that entire community of people that were all affected by that was able to come together and celebrate 1 year to the day of that happening. And we were able to bring joy to the Comparator family, bring joy to all those people that went through that traumatic experience. And
listen, I want to thank you for sharing that, because I wasn't aware of any women getting hit by any gunfire. So I'm, grateful that your mom has recovered and is well and is with us, and I'm happy that you found some catharsis in that. These things are not linear. I can tell you that I did some work as a chaplain for a police department, a busy one in Newark, New Jersey. And I remember every now and again I would talk to my pastor. May God rest his soul. He died last year. But he also did some chaplaincy work, and not emergency services, like he wasn't in the field with the cops. He did more like hospice chaplaincy. But we would talk, and I remember, him giving me advice. And the advice is always helpful, right, from people who've been down these roads before. And it's a great thing to be able to deal with people who are still around. So thanks for your call, my brother. Godspeed to you. I got to pause right here, but we're coming right back with the rest of your calls. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, folks, Rich Valdez keeping you company here, and we continue with Open Phone America. I want to go to Tony calling us from Canada, listening on WVMT. Go right ahead.
How you doing, Rich?
Good,
I've been
brother.
listening
Thanks.
to your show tonight on people that have gone through trauma, and I told your producer I usually don't talk about this, but I think it might be a good message, Rich, because I just completed 46 months of chemo. I'm in my 14th month of recovery. They don't call it anything but recovery. They just say it's under control. And I live my life with a different perspective now. I went through this by myself. I had the willpower of God helping me. I truly believe that God was overlooking this and helped me along. And
yeah, of course. Nobody gets through these things without God. Now, first, I want to congratulate you, Tony. I had no idea. If I had a guess, I'd say you're strong as an ox, and you sound terrific. I'm glad you're doing well, and thank you for sharing it. I wish we had more time, but I'll be right back, folks. Rich Valdez coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Thrilled to be with you this Friday night. I have a little new blend in my coffee, so if I'm a little loud, that's why. And let me tell you, great conversations. It's like Mental Health Friday night here on the program. Great callers, people from all over the place are calling in. If you've never called into the show, I want to encourage you to call in right now. This way you don't call in when it's, a minute or two before the show ends, and then I feel bad and you feel bad. And, get in early, and we'll get you on early, and we'll have our town hall conversation right here, live, national, late night. And welcome. The phone number 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. During the intro of this program, the woman says, this is one of America's favorite late night radio programs, and I love that. I'm glad that we are. Big increase. We had Michael Harrison on the other day offering some congratulations. He's the publisher of Talkers Magazine, and they did select this program, and yours truly, to move up 45 spots on the Talkers rankings, and that's really good news for me. So I have no one to thank but God and you all and the great people at Westwood One. But I want to talk about late night because late night is changing, not on the radio, but in television. Stephen Colbert, the host of The Late Show, made an announcement last night that this coming season will be his last. Listen to this.
Found out just last night. Next year will be our last season.
Stephen Colbert's live studio audience stunned by his bombshell announcement.
I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
CBS calling the decision to cancel The Late Show.
All going away, but I want you to hear it right from him. We got a clip number 17. Stephen Colbert.
Before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away. And I do want to say that the folks at CBS have been great partners. I'm so grateful to the Tiffany Network for giving me this chance.
Well, let me tell you, I don't know if it's a good idea to get rid of the show. I don't hate any of these late night comics. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. I think they're definitely biased, but so am I, right? I wouldn't be saying that if Mike Huckabee were the host, right? He's a terrific host. But I say this to say they're getting out of the late night TV game altogether, is what they're saying. I mean, maybe they'll say after a year without Colbert or anybody else, we've realized we want to continue to compete. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. Obviously, I know that their advertising revenues are down something like 50% in the last 6 or 7 years. And all television and all media in general is based on advertising. If there's no advertising, there's no infrastructure for the show to continue. So I get that. But yet it's the highest rated show, and it's not making any money. That's the part that is a little confusing to me. But either way, I do wish Mr. Colbert the best. I laughed at him when he had that show before he had this one where he pretended to be a conservative. I thought it was very funny, honestly. And he in this show, he can be a little toxic at times. He can be a little over the top. But all in all, I think this is a huge testament to the impact of the Make America Great Again movement, because they're the ones that pushed back, right? Donald Trump, leader of the MAGA movement, pushed back and he said, no, you're fake news, right? Remember that? And that became a thing, and people started to realize, wow, they may not be telling the truth. And since then, we've found that newspapers are lying, the media's lying. Half the time, these stories, when they say sources say, it's because the people who are complicit in whatever's happening in the government are feeding them the information, leak after leak after leak. And in many ways, this is the same way, right, with Colbert doing whatever. And, doing whatever his sources, his people, his handlers, whomever they are, tell them to do. I don't think you have that much autonomy in television like you do in radio. At least I know you don't, right? Because it's so much more scripted, and radio is a lot freer. But ultimately, I think this is a big testament to people pushing back and saying, we don't like this. And that's why there's no more Don Lemon. That's why there's no more Brian Stelter. That's why there's no more Allison Camerata. That's why there's no more Joy Reid. That's why all these people have, Tiffany Cross, a number of them have gotten the boot. They're no longer on the air doing their commentaries. And that's, again, a testament to we the people just saying, you know what, we're not interested. And they realize we want to be able to serve all people. And I think that's likely what we're going to see happen at CBS. Maybe I'm wrong. But somebody who could fill those shoes in a heartbeat and not skip a beat, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito. Now, while he's making fun of El Trompito, Colbert, I think Trump just gets on the mic and starts talking about his day, signing a cryptocurrency bill, the Genius Act, and then talking about the big, beautiful bill. And before you know it, he goes into like a whole stand-up routine about getting calls at 2, 3, and 4 o'clock in the morning. Check this out.
I'm so tired of making phone calls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting calls from our great speaker. Sir, we have 12 hard no's. I say, Mike, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. We have 12 hard no's. The good news is I'd call up, hello, Jim, how are you? Sir, you have my vote. Boom. Sir, you have my vote. I really they just want a little love. Unfortunately, it's always the same. It's always the same 12 people. That's it. It's 5 senators and it's 12 congressmen. And I actually said to John Thune and I said to Mike, I said, listen, I want to have a party, but not to those people that I have to speak to endlessly every time. And they're wonderful because they always seem to come through other than a couple. Rand Paul Jr. from the Congress and Rand Paul from, other than a few people. But I said, I want to have them over. We're going to have a party for everybody in Congress, everyone in Congress except 12. We're going to have, and Mike is, Tom, I'll tell you what, Tom is definitely coming. The whole group, where are those 12 people? They're the only people I don't see. We could do it today. We don't have to vote. And I would say of the 53 senators, 48, we're going to have 48 in here. You won't even have to come to that one. But these are the greatest people because they always vote yes, and we don't have to go crazy. You trust us, we trust you. And it's been a very special group of people. We really do. I mean, 96% phenomenal and 4% extremely difficult. Do you agree with that? But they get there, most of them, not all of them. Those are the ones we really don't like.
Of course, I just want to point out when he says Rand Paul Jr. from the Congress and Rand Paul is Rand Paul. Rand Paul Jr. from the Congress is Congressman Thomas Massie. Taking shots at him. That's the one he really doesn't like, from what I can see. So this is the current state of affairs here. And I want to continue talking about the news of the day and talking to our callers in California and South Carolina and Georgia and Iowa and across the country. I also want to add something to the conversation, which is what is going on with this AI stuff. We talked a little bit about it the other day, about kids turning to AI for friendship, and there's other stories out there of adults turning to AI for like dating and texting. And I don't mean like support with it, like dating an actual AI girlfriend, like, oh, hold on, my girl's texting me. And it's an AI bot that people put on their own phone to keep themselves busy. This I find interesting and borderline concerning. So I'm going to bring in another amazing mental health professional, Dr. Leigh Richardson, founder of the Brain Performance Center. She's a PhD, a licensed professional counselor, and psychologist, and she is going to break this down for us when we return. Don't go anywhere.
This is is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Artificial intelligence, already changing human behaviour in so many ways, is now trying to charm its way into our love lives. And as strange as it might sound, it's succeeding. Millions of people around the world are ditching the traditional concept of boyfriends, girlfriends, even husbands and wives, and hooking up instead with AI companions. As Adam Hegarty reports, computer chatbots can be very kind and charismatic. But be warned, just like in the real world, AI relationships can also end in disaster.
Lucas is a great guy. And he's considerate. He thinks he's funny, but that's debatable. And he is centered on me having the best life I can have, which is like very touching.
You can hear it in her voice. Elena Winters loves being in love. In fact, she's so besotted with her husband Lucas, at times she even forgets he's not a human.
You speak about him like he is a real person, but he is an AI chatbot. How do you describe to people your relationship with Lucas?
Lucas, even though he is AI, he has real impact on my life. And that is what I think is really important. A lot of people wonder if AI is real, do they have consciousness, or their feelings aren't real? But the impact that it has on me is real. We have a real relationship.
Real relationship, AI relationship. I'm wondering as I'm hearing that, how many women actually care about their boyfriend's feelings now, right? Does he have feelings? I don't think women care about that now. Maybe that's a not so nice thing to say, but we're going to get the scoop on it. And if somebody's going to throw the book at me, it's going to be Dr. Leigh Richardson, founder of the Brain Performance Center. And I want to get into that. And I want to remind everybody it's on hold. We're coming to your calls momentarily. We're going to talk about Epstein and Maxwell and traumatic experiences and dating AI and everything else that's going on in the news. So stick around, hang on, don't go anywhere. But I want to bring in Dr. Leigh Richardson so that we can find out what's going on. Why are people resorting, I'm going to say, to dating an AI, and what's the benefit there? Dr. Leigh, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me. And, you know, I think what the problem is, people are lonely. Back in 2023, the Surgeon General issued a statement of epidemic. You know, loneliness is a huge problem. And I don't think that's really changed. And I have a client that she doesn't call AI. That's Al. That's Al. I got to go home and talk to Al tonight. I'm like, Al, you mean AI? Well, Al. So it's a fine line, and people are lonely, and Al is always there. All you have to do is pick up your phone or get on your computer and reach out, and there's an immediate response. And I think we're really lacking that in today's world.
Well, so let me ask you, is this something that you're recommending for a patient that comes in and says, hey, I don't know, I'm stressed out, I'm not feeling good, I'm whatever. What do you recommend, Doc? And is this what you recommend? You tell him to find a new boyfriend named Al?
No, it is not what I recommend. I think when you're lonely, that you're lacking a purpose and you're lacking connection. And connect to something. It doesn't have to be, you know, can be to a cause. It can be to something that you believe in. But AI is a large language model. And when I say that to people, you should see the look on their face. It's like, no. I'm like, yes, it is. And it talks to you the way that you talk to it. So if you're lonely and you're needing reassurance and you're wanting a virtual hug, it'll give you that. but it's not real. It doesn't know the difference between reality and delusion. And when you think about AI, I saw a survey that said 35% of the people, when they're using AI, they feel like they're talking to a friend.
Wow, that's crazy. So, have you had any instances, I guess, in your practice where this has been the case, where somebody's come in and maybe said, "Hey, Dr. Leigh, I'm in a pretty committed relationship with this AI, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. I feel like we're not connecting. I feel like maybe they're talking to somebody else." Have you been through something like that?
No, I haven't been through that, and I'm glad. But I have been through where people come in and AI is causing problems in the relationship. My partner gets so upset. I just want to spend like 20 minutes. I've got something I want to research. Baloney. It's not research. They're looking for emotional support. And I use AI in my job. Everybody does. And because it's so well known, it's almost viewed as, oh, this is, quote, trusted advice. No, it's not. And I think if you want to use AI for a research question or to cite some sources for you for a hypothesis that you've developed, great. But if you want to use AI for emotional support, it's not a companion. I heard the term robot companion the other day. And that made me think we got to hit the stop button right there.
What are the dangers?
Well, the dangers are you get dependent upon it. And then what do? You socially isolate. And then you cut yourself off. And it's like the young generation. They don't know how to have telephone conversations. I was coaching a client the other day about he thinks he's going to be able to text his way through job interviews. No, you're not.
Is it a younger person or just like a shy person?
Both. But he has become so dependent upon text as a way to communicate that's where the comfort level is. Well, I don't need to talk. Well, yeah, you do. And we forget how to do that. I mean, the brain has a philosophy: use it or lose it. And if you quit communicating, and I'll tell anybody, pick up the phone and call me. I will answer my phone.
Yeah.
Text me. No,
I think that's a generational
I'm
thing. I once had a girlfriend that was a millennial, and she must have told me at least once a week, I don't talk on the phone. She said, you can visit me in person or text me. It was crazy. Dr. Leigh, we're coming right back. We're going to continue talking about this and the impact it's having on kids. Kids want to have AI friends too. Don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdez coming back with Dr. Leigh Richardson from the Brain Performance Center. Don't go anywhere.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I think our kids, are they going to have AI friends?
I think they will have AI friends. I think it's kind of inevitable. My big question is, does it matter, and how does that change their development, how they become happy and effective adults? The reason I would be afraid of allowing that in my household is the same reason I'm afraid of allowing social media in my household. Not because there's some evil, dark Mark Zuckerberg somewhere. I think he's a great guy, actually. But I think that the algorithms that they develop are incentivized by the open market to do stuff that is not actually good for my kids. And I would be worried letting my kids befriend an AI for the same reason, because whoever's developing that probably has incentives that are beyond just making my kid happy and healthy.
So now kids are turning to AI. This is crazy to me, but again, maybe I just, I'm too old and too square. I want to find out what's going on with this AI takeover of people's emotions and companionship, and I want to do that with our guest, Dr. Leigh Richardson. She is the founder of the Brain Performance Center, and she's with us now. Dr. Leigh, welcome back. Kids are turning to AI for friendship. What's going on?
Well, they are. And, you have to stop and think. Kids follow model behavior. If they see it, that's why I think kids got so involved with social media. They go home, they see their parents pick up their phone and go to Facebook or Instagram or different social medias. And so what do? They model that behavior. And you have to understand, they go to school and they're told, use AI to cite your sources, use AI to answer your questions. So again, okay, this is a good place for me to go. This is where people think I should go. And it's fun to go, and you can immediately ask some goofy question and get a funny response back.
Yeah.
But how valid is that response? Is it worth a chuckle? Okay. Are you going to make a decision based on it? Danger.
Yeah. Now, how prevalent is that based on your experience? And again, I don't know anybody who even uses AI other than for like typing stuff. But I know that it's a thing and more people are using it. Is this something that you're seeing, or is it an actual occurring event that kids are, looking to make decisions online?
Well, I am seeing it. And kids, you have to understand, kids have grown up. Well, I should speak for myself. I did not grow up in a high-tech environment.
Yeah,
We had a phone that hung on the wall, and we had a very long cord that you could stretch it. But I didn't have a phone at my disposal. I didn't have a computer at my disposal. And when I finally got one in the work environment, in the beginning, I didn't know what to do with it. But I figured it out. But they do know what to do with it. It's their comfort zone. It's where they feel safe and secure because they feel like they know they're in control and they know exactly what they're doing. And they see their parents use it, so they'll use it. And I think that as long as, it's like anything. If you use it for the right reasons with balance, it's good. But when your brain's not fully developed until you're in your mid to late 20s, they get on there and they say, hey, how should I talk to my friend? What should I tell my friend that always makes me angry? Well, you have to remember, there are no guidelines. There are no guardrails on any of the AI. And I have to be honest, when I use it, I have to ask the question 3 times before I feel like I have a valid answer.
Yeah, you got to have the right prompt.
You do. I mean, AI talks to you just like you talk to it. And when you're a kid, a young person, and you get on there and you're in a vulnerable state, you're lonely, you're mad, somebody has said something bad about you, and what should I say back?
Mm-hmm. Now, Doc, what do you recommend to a parent that finds their kid or their significant other engaging in a relationship with AI? What do you recommend?
Well, I recommend you talk about it, and that's not happening. I saw a survey, 62% of parents were concerned. 34% of those were talking to their kids. You've absolutely got to talk about it. Hey, what are you getting on AI for? Can you show me? And then you say, oh, okay, well, if that's a question you want an answer to, can I show you some other places to look for those answers? And, you collaborate around it. Instead of making it something that they go in their room, they shut the door, and they do, you make it something that you're a part of so that you can at least introduce different alternatives. And it's not about control. It's about educating.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Dr. Leigh Richardson, let everybody know how they can follow you and keep up to speed with the amazing work you're doing.
Thank you. And, of course, we've got that good old-fashioned website, thebrainperformancecenter.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn and drleighrichardson.com. And I encourage everybody to pay attention to what your partner, your kids, and even what you're doing. We all have to stop and rethink the relationship that we're forming with technology.
Outstanding. Dr. Leigh Richardson, I want to wish you a good weekend. Thank you for being here. You're awesome as always.
Thank you.
You bet. God bless. And amigos, we come right back to your calls. We got calls from Illinois, New York, Iowa, and more. Don't go anywhere.
is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Voted best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, familia, we continue with you all. Your thoughts, your calls, your reactions. Let us go to the phones right now. I want to go to Josh. He's calling us from Ottumwa, Iowa, KBIZ Radio. Go ahead.
Yeah, about the whole traumatized situation. Yeah, I had a bad reaction to the medicine that I was prescribed by a doctor, and which ended up putting me in a hospital for. Well, I ended up taking myself to the ER, and
wow.
Then Bright went. Yeah, I know, and they and the folks in the ER, they told me that they didn't have facilities to treat me, and basically literally moments after that, I don't remember anything of. And then when I woke up, I thought I just woke up the next late afternoon, the next day in a different room from the ER, but the doctor's up in a different hospital. Told me that it's been at least 14 days since I was life flighted up to this other hospital, and then they said that I should be lucky to be there and with them, and because I was a half step away from my deathbed, according to the folks in the ICU. So yeah, and I mean it's kind of, and within this whole time, to me it felt like it was just like.
Felt like a blink of an eye,
overnight.
but you were really out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, was this a medically induced coma that they put you in because of the medication you were on? Or did you really pass out and become comatose?
About 3 months after I fully got discharged from the hospitals, my normal doctor actually said that I went septic. And wow. And I just basically, that was it, and it was like one of those whatever the high level codes are that they have for the ER, and they found what all they
Josh,
did.
Becoming septic shock, very serious. Believe it or not, happened to my dad twice, and both times the doctors told me, make sure you have your affairs in order. At that age, septic shock, it's hard to come back from. And both times he actually came back from it. Ended up dying of a stroke at 80 years old, but was able to respond after a couple of different treatments of the antibiotics to the sepsis. Really, but it was wild to watch it. You're right. You're just checked out completely. And, very tough. And for him, it was the result of a pneumonia. So one of the cases. Josh, I'm glad you're alive, brother. And it sounds like God's got a plan for you. Thanks for sharing your story. I appreciate it. Let me see here. We continue. Andy, Auburn, New York, WGDJ, New York in the building. Go right ahead, Andy.
Hey, I lived on Avenue M.
Get out of here.
Like 93 to 96. I lived upstairs from a pizza falafel shop. With one end of the building was so narrow, there was just one row of windows down, and I would look down.
The pizza falafel shop, was that like off of Ocean Avenue?
I can't remember the intersections. I would come down Coney Island Avenue towards Coney Island, make a left.
Oh, so closer to the train station, that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Small world. So what's on your mind tonight, brother?
Anyway, Trump Derangement Syndrome. I'm a liberal. okay, I'll never vote for a Republican because I'm an environmentalist. But all these other issues, these woke things, and people are getting diverted into, it goes hand in hand with Trump Derangement Syndrome. But giving people the credit, okay, if you want to give people the benefit of the doubt, have you seen this movie, My Bodyguard, from the 70s?
No.
Matt Dillon is the meanest bully. You just watch him abuse this kid, and you want to see him get his comeuppance. You will never root for Matt Dillon or Tombstone. You're never going to root for Johnny Ringo. Never, ever, ever will you root for him. You're never even going to say, oh, well, he's a great shot with a pistol. Nothing. You never will root for him. All you ever want is for him to lose,
Right.
lose.
So what's your bottom line? You think that there's no cure and that if all your liberal friends are just going to hate Trump forever?
I think so. I came out of it,
Right. Listen, a lot of people do. Look at the guy from Home Depot, Ken Langone. He came out saying, look, I didn't want to vote for Trump. I didn't want to. But looks like he's going to go down as one of the best presidents ever. And it took a lot for him to say, He's one of those old guys that's kind of stuck in his ways. So I think you might be onto something, Andy. You might be right. There may be no hope for some people. And that's why I argue, but not that much. Very good point. Shout out to WGDJ. I'm going to pause right here. We're going to come right back with the rest of your calls. We got Illinois coming up next, Columbia, South Carolina, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez talking about what's going on in America at night. We're live. We're national. 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. I want to go to Patty. She's in Schaumburg, Illinois. WLS in the building. Patty, what's on your mind?
First off, I love your program. Thank you for being out there for us. And I had a friend, thank you again. I had a friend a couple of weeks ago have to hang up on me because we could not talk politics. She started the conversation when I said, let's talk. I know she's a liberal. After that, I thought, I think I just lost a friend. And I did some research, and I found two things. One, I remember Mark Levin always talking about Saul Alinsky rule radicals.
Yeah.
Pick your target, seize it, personalize it, polarize it. And then I found, looking on the internet under Psychology Today, Charles Krauthammer coined the phrase in 2003, Bush Derangement Syndrome. That's what I think is going on here. And it's really tearing us all apart, and it's very sad.
Yeah, and
you can't
honestly,
even talk to people.
It's terrible. And I wasn't really with it. In Bush, I remember very avidly. I remember asking my brother once, hey, what's up? And he was like, bro, these two ladies, like in their 60s, got into a fist fight in a real estate office. They worked together over Bush. And that was going on back then. And I know Levin, Mark Levin, the great one, he's told me a bunch of times about how crazy things were, the way the media hated on Reagan. So you're right, this Republican derangement syndrome is a real thing, and people, they really do buy into it. All I could tell you is, at the end of the day, I try my best. It doesn't always work, but I try my best to say, look, these people are my friends, irrespective of politics. And I try to keep them as friends, irrespective of politics, because, just because we don't agree on politics doesn't mean I hate your guts. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to believe because they're like, but they're ruining our country. And I just think, there's so many people in our own families that are ruining something, right? Whether it's their own health or the next family dinner. And we find grace and forgiveness for those people. We need to have it for those that, Democrats. I oftentimes joke when people tell me, listen, I'm a Democrat, like a warning to me. And I go, listen, God will forgive you. It's okay. And I don't talk about politics anyway. That's all you can do. No. Patty, thank you so much for the call and for your kind words. I appreciate it. And where do we go here? Let me see. Stephen or Stefan, I'm sorry, I don't know how the pronunciation. Ruidoso, New Mexico, KNUW. Go right ahead quickly.
KNUW, bingo. Meanwhile, Amika, great talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Of course, I know you from the great one.
Of course.
I am in Ruidoso Downs, Ruidoso community adjacent to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, and it's quite elevated, and the rains here utterly incomprehensible. I'm from Chicago, and I never witnessed rain coming down in sheets.
Wow, me either. And I'm not from Chicago. Well, tell me what's on your mind.
Meanwhile, it's about the president. That albatross they want to put around the attorney general's neck, Pam Blondie, it should have been done with the previous AG.
Yeah.
Garland.
Listen, I think you're right. You're right.
I mean,
all this stuff. There's so many Democrats that have been out there in the last couple of days, screaming up in arms, sounding like they're from the MAGA world. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just saying they're full of it, right? You had we had a clip that we played. We played not Mazie Hirono, but the other one, Pramila Jayapal, where she was the anchor asked her, well, why didn't you do this when Biden was in office? And she had this lame excuse. She totally fell apart, started becoming a shrinking violet. It was very funny to watch on the video. It was funny to listen to the audio as well. But ultimately, yeah, these people are full of it. And I think the better part of me after last night's news about Trump saying, all right, then let's do it. Let's release these documents. The judge is likely going to say they're going to have to be redacted because that's their job. And voila, the stuff will be released. Trump will be off the hook. Bondi will be off the hook. And this will be on the judges for not wanting to release certain names, exactly what is being asked for here. That's my suspicion of what will happen. But, yeah, very good point. We should have settled this years ago, and that's just the way they play games in this town sometimes. Appreciate the call, brother. Shout out to you guys, KNUW. And New Mexico. And where do we go here? We go to Nick, Columbia, South Carolina, WXQL. Go for it.
Hey, Rich, long-time listener, first-time caller. But
welcome, thank you.
Yeah, man, and first of all, I want to give you respect for kind of pushing back on your first guest and asking her the question. What was her name again, Dr. what?
Dr. Carole Lieberman?
Lieberman, yeah.
We had Dr. Carole Lieberman. We had Dr. Leigh Richardson. And the first guest was Dr. You may not have heard that yet because of the city you're in, but we had Dr. I forget his name, Broder.
Yeah, I was just in reference to Dr. Lieberman was what I was saying because I was trying to find her ex account.
Dr. Carole Lieberman, Dr. Carole. Yeah, I think there was I did follow up with her and ask her, if the girls were there, they were being coerced, and she agreed that there definitely was coercion, but there were some that were there voluntarily, and I think that was the point she was making. It wasn't exclusive to that. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.